Geluid voor jou ook.
Wie zie je praten?
Sarah en John, die zie ik praten.
Die praten denk ik met elkaar.
Die praten met elkaar.
Ja.
Maar die praten niet met geluid. Die hebben het geluid af.
Die hebben het geluid inderdaad uitstaan. Ik versta het ook niet.
Oké, ze hebben het geluid uitgezet. Oké, daarom dacht ik van, er is iets niet goed met mijn geluid.
Nee. Volgens mij klopt het bij ons in ieder geval.
Oké.
Ajahn is ready, she says.
Yes, I think we're ready to start now. Sawadika, Ajahn. Sawadika, everyone.
Sawadika.
Sawadika, Ajahn.
Well, I can say something if nobody speaks. Yeah. What I find
Go ahead, Mina.
Yeah. What I find so helpful last time was that the experiencing and Chitta experience was stressed so much. Instead of, if we don't understand this, it's not much use to think of the details and the theory, because I was thinking of our Dutch meeting and the theory was quite all right. But I missed the present moment, and we cannot understand all these details if there is no understanding of just the function of Chitta, which experiences an object. That's what Ajahn said. Its characteristic, its function, is just to experience. No shape, no form. And she also explained for direct experience, no words are needed. So there were very good explanations last time.
Yes, and I think the point is always stressed that it's not about finding the meaning of the words. It's about the understanding of what appears now, because we can spend a whole life finding the meaning of the words. But if there's no understanding of the reality, whatever it's called, that appears now, then understanding cannot develop. And just a moment ago, Jyotika said that she was interested to discuss more about metta and meditation and calmness. So metta, for example, it doesn't matter what word is used, but there has to be the understanding of the quality of metta when it arises, when it's appeared. Because if there's no understanding of what metta is at moments of kindness and concern and friendliness to others, then it cannot be developed. And if that metta, if the friendliness, different from the attachment when there's clinging, if it's taken for being my kindness or my attachment or my calmness, again, there can never be the development of understanding that leads to satipatthana, because it's still the idea of I and my development and my metta to be a good person. So like Betty said just a moment ago, the function of understanding is letting go of the clinging to the idea of self, to the idea of I, to the idea of my metta or my goodness or what I should do that is right. It's the development of detachment which develops with understanding, to just understand what appears at this very moment, no matter the name or no matter what it's called. Jyotika, would you like to raise your question about metta and metta meditation for Ajahn and everyone to consider?
Yes. Till now, I learned to to do the metta meditation with the sentence, may I be well, happy and peaceful. May I be well, happy and peaceful. May I be well, happy and peaceful. And to repeat it. And then later on to, may you be well, happy and peaceful. May you be well, happy and peaceful. But now this I becomes so sensitive that I don't know how to use it. I know it is conventional language. I know it is not an I, that I do it, but still I think, is there another possibility? Is it? Can we do it different? Can we? And again, I was talking and asking all the time, can we do something with the conditions? But is it also not making, a better person for yourself with the metta? Sometimes I think it is not so much for the other person, but it is all that we when we feel that there is a barricade, or that there is something what is keeping us away, or make it difficult to be completely with the other or for the other, that it is more for ourselves that we do the metta, to really develop this attitude from metta, or this quality. So I'm a bit, I don't know exactly how to use this, what I did till now. And now it's become so prominent that not to work from the I, that there is no, it's not possible. Yeah, how to do it then? I'm so very happy that I can bring it in here.
So,
Would you like-
Jotika, can metta arise in daily life?
Can metta arise in daily life? I think
Yes.
so.
Yes. Can it arise for the person who has not heard the Buddha's teaching?
Yeah.
And when it arises like that, naturally and spontaneously, is it true metta?
I think so.
Yes. And is there the awareness? Is there awareness of metta when it does arise naturally in daily life?
Now I want to say you mean in me, but that's again, and then I am already in the me.
Does one know the moments that metta arises from the moments when there is not metta in daily life?
Yeah.
Is that so?
Yeah.
So at those moments, so what is the purpose then of metta meditation? Is it the same as having metta in daily life, or is it something different?
To make it better and better.
When one decides to practice metta meditation, is the mental state the same as those moments when metta arises naturally in daily life?
I became more aware, I think, with the metta meditation from this whole field of metta and what it really is and what it is not. And when it is fake metta.
But the metta that arises in daily life naturally is not fake metta, is it?
No.
No. So why is there a need to have a practice for having more metta when it already arises from time to time in daily life?
I don't know. Maybe I believe too less in the metta which is coming up like in daily life.
And when one decides to practice metta meditation, is there any is there any hidden or unrealized motivation for gaining something for oneself?
Possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in that, if that's the case, can it be true metta that is developed in the practice?
No.
So that's the difference between doing something by way of a practice in order to bring a particular result and a wholesome mental state that arises naturally and spontaneously in daily life.
So then the conclusion is that we should not do a retreat on metta meditation.
Where do we get the idea of metta meditation from in the first place?
It's very well known, I think, here.
Was it taught by the Buddha?
They say so.
Are you aware of where it can be found in the teachings? Because I don't think the Buddha ever taught a meditation practice like
We used the Karaniya Metta Sutra.
Right. So the Karaniya Metta Sutta, of course, describes metta and its development, and the person and describes the person of developed metta, but it doesn't tell us to undertake a practice of metta like that in a formal way.
It describes a person who is developing metta.
Mm-hmm.
And it means
that it describes the person who has developed metta. That person has a heart of boundless goodwill towards another. It's not the Buddha is not setting out a practice there. If we have a look at the words of the sutta carefully.
Yeah. So I know the 14 qualities in the beginning. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and to the path of peace.
Mm-hmm.
Be upright and all these 14 qualities.
Right. But those qualities cannot be made to happen.
No.
So
but we can think about it, we can
that's correct. We can think about it.
Ponder on it, contemplate on it.
Yes, exactly so. But if we then think that there's a practice in order to become a person who has those qualities, that is a different matter.
I think that is wrong view, right? Because it's think of idea of can do or can when something can be done, when actually all are anatta and nothing can be done.
And the point is that what is the object of metta? For example, if there is friendliness and kindness to others, the object is the other people, the other beings that one would like to be happy, would like to have good fortune, would like to have pleasant experiences. It's not for oneself. But if one is saying, may I be well, may I be happy, or can I
peaceful
change conditions to be a better person, actually it's just the clinging to oneself as usual. We don't need to listen to the Buddha's teachings to cling more and more to ourselves. So wishing to be happy, wishing to have good experiences, wishing to be a kind person is quite different. It's the opposite of wishing others well or being concerned in a wholesome way for others' welfare, forgetting about oneself completely.
But Sarade has said that if you do not have it yourself, you cannot give it to another. So then we start with first wishing it to ourselves.
This is the common idea.
Yeah, common idea, yeah.
Wishing it for oneself is actually just wishing to have metta for oneself. So it's attachment to oneself at that moment. So attachment to oneself, developing attachment to oneself is not the way to develop metta to others. I think that what we read in the text is just as we would like to have pleasant experiences, just as we would like to be happy, others would too. So the development of metta is the goodwill to others, just as we would like it. But it's the opposite of wishing oneself well, trying to have more metta oneself. Because the object of any of the Brahma Viharas, compassion, metta, sympathetic joy, equanimity, is other beings. So it's also always the kusala citta, thinking about the others, not thinking about oneself, what I would like. Otherwise, it's just wishing oneself well, more and more clinging, leading to more and more sadness when it's not how one would like it.
But
So
it's not
metta is the letting go of oneself.
And we think of metta as being something that is given to another person, or metta towards another person. And maybe we think of it as something that is manifest and can be seen by the other person. But the reality of metta is just a wholesome mental state with another being as object. And it is first and foremost and only actually the development of that wholesome mental state. So whether the other person knows that one's mental state is wholesome, that metta is beside the point. So we don't think of it as a way of projecting, if you like, some kind of vibe to another person or anything like that. It's just the arising and the development of a particular wholesome mental quality, like the other wholesome mental qualities, like compassion, or like generosity, or like kindness, or like understanding, for that matter, or calmness. It's purely that particular mental state that is being developed.
But it is toch that the mental state, this wholesome mental state, is in me. The arising, or the arising from it for the other person, towards the other person.
Well, we think of it in that way, but it's, you see, we are thinking of other people much of the time. For example, now, other people are the object of one's consciousness at the moment. And the mental state can be either wholesome or unwholesome, depending on accumulated tendencies. And it may be sometimes one and sometimes the other. But if there's metta, then it arises by conditions, and it can be known. Its wholesome quality can be known, but usually not. And do we know the difference between, for example, pure metta and subtle attachment? Usually we think of having metta to people that we know, are familiar with and like. And so what is the moment that, do we know the difference between the moments that are wholesome and the moments that are with attachment? And so it's not so easy to develop a wholesome quality of any kind.
No.
And I want to say that metta, the difference between metta and lopa is that lopa is akusala and is selfish, and metta is selfless and is truly thinking about others. When we think about others with attachment or love, one's love is actually selfish. It's only thinking about self. It's not truly thinking for the welfare of the others. But if metta is thinking for other with good will, of friendly, like that. So love and metta are love are nearest enemy of metta, so it's very sometimes hard to distinguish whether it's good or.
It's good points. Let's just see if Ajahn is here now. Ajahn, would you like to add more comments?
Yes, I think that we think about having more and more metta, but what about daily life? To be kind, to be friendly to whoever or whatever living being. Can that be at that very moment, no matter at what level in any situation? See, that is the real development of metta, but it's not as the understanding of metta, because we just want to have metta, we and that person and metta, but what is the truth of that very moment? It has to be like this each life. If there's no understanding what is there, what we call it or what we take it for metta, what is its nature, and why does one want to have it? Why not the other reality? See, just having object of attachment from this to that all the time without any understanding. So the real metta must be with the understanding at different level. When there is no understanding of reality as it is, as not self, metta is only a reality. It doesn't belong to me. No one can make it arise. It depends on condition, how short or how long, and how more or less moment of metta. It all depends on conditions. But attachment is there for everything, even metta. See, that's why the understanding of what metta is better than just want to have that which we don't know at all what is the true nature of it as not self or anything at all. So the teachings of the Buddha about reality like metta, a reality, a conditioned reality, is wholesome, but it depends on level of understanding. For example, when there's no understanding of the nature of it as not self at all, there can be a moment of seeing how metta is better than dosa. See, from understanding this, it can condition moment of metta, but you see that it's not as much as understand that which is metta, the citta with metta at that very moment. No understanding of that, and no understanding of what metta is or what condition it's arising. And metta is this moment, seeing anyone on the street, in the room, anywhere, stranger, or beast, or lion, or dog, or cat, or fly. See, we don't think about these at all. We just think about person only. But what about to be friendly? And how can they be more friendly without understanding the nature of it? That's why the person who have more understanding can have more metta, because of understanding that each living being is just the same. Conditioned reality depending on conditions. So why do we hate the person, the one, or the killer, and so on? What about metta, understanding? To be understanding person, it's conditioned. No one would like to be a killer or bad one, bad person, bad personality. But by conditions, what is there cannot be changed because it has its function or its paccaya to be such and such each moment. That's why learning to understand the truth and understand it as no one, and it's only very temporary, very short, just arise and falls away by the accumulation of wholesome and unwholesome. Such at such moment, no one can change it, and it can bring about more metta to anyone, no matter what nationality, what level, rich or poor, bad or good, all the same. Who would like to be bad person? But there is motion of such unwholesome moment by conditions. And only when there is understanding, there is less and less clinging to the self. Even the idea, I would like to have more metta. That is from not understanding the truth, that what is metta, and why not to anyone in the house, in the room, the colleague, and everyone, the workers on the street, and so on. See, even the beast or the fly or the ant. What is the true metta? Not just metta to person only, to people only, but to whatever is as living creature. Same, because without avijja, there cannot be that arising or birth of such and such being, to be such and such being at all. And what goes on from moment after birth by conditions. The more there's understanding, the more friendly, to be friendly, friendliness develop more and more and more. Less and less attachment to just oneself, because at that moment is no understanding of that which cannot be taken for anything permanent at all, only by conditions. So what is the best in one's life? To understand the truth, and the understanding will lead to more and more wholesome moment in a day. Even metta, to be friendly to everyone.
And
And that's
Thanachan, I have heard when we angry at someone who doing something bad and all that, and then when maybe Panya can rise that, oh, there's actually no one, it's just a Dhamma, and that could stop from angry to metta. So Panya can understand that the reality that there's no one, there's no self, there are just Dhamma, and that moment can be relieved instead of angry and have metta. So Panya also can condition metta in that way also, right?
at moment of seeing a small bird, very lovely. At that moment, it is attachment or metta. See,
Attachment.
but anyone, as you said, would like to have more metta, but at that moment it's attachment. But when there is the understanding, it will be less attachment and a little more understanding and friendliness. Even giving the food to the dog or cat at that moment with metta or attachment. So it does mean that we should develop metta by sitting and thinking and saying out, try to have metta. It's not that metta, it's no understanding at all. Just craving, wanting to have, trying anyway, even to sit and recite. But what about this moment, looking at the lovely dog or cat, see? Who knows whether that moment is metta or not? And if it's not metta, what about development of metta? It's that only time to develop metta, not just to sit and recite about metta.
And Thanachan, we I have heard, you have read in saying that if we think that this is the last life that we're going to see this person, so instead of angry to that person, it could condition metta to that person, right?
Right understanding can bring more and more wholesome moments. Because if there is no metta, what is there? See? If it's not anger, aversion, it is attachment. They are all akusala, unwholesome, no matter it's attachment or aversion. But we think about the other, like he's bad and he did such a bad thing. But thinking about that, is metta or not? See? So metta is not trying to have it, but to understand that very moment, whether it is akusala, attachment or aversion. That person has done something wrong, it's completely gone. And we think about that at that very moment. What can help? Nothing. Because at that moment, Citta cannot understand the truth. But actually, what is there is only a reality by conditions, no matter nama or rupa. But we always think about the other, what he's done, what he's doing. But what citta is now thinking about that with metta or karuna or mudita or ubekha. See, not just the word, but at that very moment, looking at any situation, no matter it's unwholesome or unwholesome, cruel or kind. What about citta of that person, not about the person who is doing such bad thing? What about this, which we just want to have metta? But what is there at that moment? So when there is more understanding, there can be more wholesome reality or moment, also metta. Not trying to have it, but it's there because of understanding reality as it is. It's just no one is so short, just a right and false way, no matter wholesome, unwholesome, kusala, akusala, vipaka, or kiriya, all by conditions. But ignorance is there. So it conditioned many, many sankhara thinking about people, this one and that one, this situation or that situation, see, all about the others. But what about the citta which is thinking? Just want to have metta, don't know what it's metta, and metta towards what? Or attachment instead of metta, so close. That's why only Panya can understand better and better. And when there is the understanding of actually there's no one at all, no matter what is there, wholesome or unwholesome. What about the citta which is thinking about that with attachment, aversion, or compassion, or friendly, to be friendly at that very moment. So it's daily life. And the development of metta is not sitting or meditate about metta, but at the very moment when that object appears as being, no matter when and where. Different appearance, different action, different ways of speech. See, it's there. To understand that actually there isn't anything permanent at all. To condition hatred or metta all the time because each moment is different. And right understanding only can understand the truth of it, not just the word, but the reality which is there. Because we talk about realities, about citta and cetasika and rupa, and each word conveys the meaning of it. Deeper, more understanding. For example, right now, everyone has no doubt about the arising and falling away of that which hears and that which is heard. But what about this moment? It seems like there is understanding, but it's only remembering from hearing, listening, and not forgetting what is the meaning of each word. What is there? It's conditioned to arise and falls away. That is not understanding of the truth of that very moment, of that single reality as it is. But studying Dhamma is that understanding that is now, and there's no understanding of the depth, the arising and falling away of it. So it will lead to more understanding, not just remember or recite the word, no matter metta or whatever, but it's there to understand this very moment as it is, little by little, no matter we're talking about what. For example, we can talk about attachment. See, no idea before at all that there is attachment to whatever appears when there is no understanding. So quick, so fast by conditions. who can stop the way Dhamma, the processes, is conditioned to arise and fall away in succession. No one can change its way at all. That's why learning to understand the truth will condition more metta to the person who doesn't have the understanding of the truth, or bad behavior, or unpleasant and wholesome accumulation by conditions. So as much as we can help, see, by any way, and there's the moment of being friendly just for the person to understand the truth, that is metta. So anytime when you share your understanding with the others, to have the understanding better and better, to understand the truth of actually there's no one at all. Is that not metta? It's time to arise, to perform its function, not to just think about or recite the term without what about the moment when one is with the others anytime. Like someone said that while he is reciting metta terms or word or stanza, according to what they say, and when there's someone knocking at the door, he get angry, irritated. Is that metta? So metta is not the rule, or it depends on the word to recite, but at that very moment to understand citta at that very moment, whether is there any irritation or more than that. Who knows? No one knows beforehand what would be the next moment by conditions. So the best thing in life, no matter in each life, is the moment of understanding the truth, little by little, not just listen to the word and then think that we have understood it so well, like the word nama, that which experiences, or the word rupa. But what about now? Metta, see? What is it? Just want to have it? But what is its nature? A reality doesn't belong to I or me, who the one who wants to have it at all. So
But yes, go ahead, please.
okay, please.
Jonathan, go ahead.
Is there metta now?
No.
When there's no understanding of the nature of metta of the self, thus we really know or understand metta. See, when we talk about the seeing, that which sees, it experiences that which is there, which is seen. But what about now? The subtlety of its nature is there. And the word is not for remember or recite, but to develop understanding little by little at moment of seeing by conditions. The firm sanya of that which is not self, only that which sees, see, little by little. Not just try to not seeing anything as flowers or things, that's wrong. But to understand the nature, the characteristic which is there. And at every moment, there's no attention or awareness of other thing. It is the beginning of letting go attachment to the other object, because awareness arises and is directly aware of only one object, little by little, so very short in the very beginning, but it begins to develop until one day it appears as no doubt at all about that which experiences, because it appears. So when we talk about metta, when we talk about anger, or when we talk about other thing, it's all there, one at in a moment. but it does not appear at all as it is. It is the object of thinking only. Understanding like any object we learn about mathematics, building the house or cooking or anything. Put this and it comes out like this, only that. But what about the nature, the reality of it, which now arising, falling away as object, continuously appear as an image of something, remembered as something permanent, that's all. So the understanding of the truth that actually one lives in the world of ignorance, not understanding the truth of any reality right now does not appear or show up as it is. Its nature is no one there. But from hearing again and again and again, I know the point that the most precious moment is understanding not the word, but the reality of that which one heard about it until it shows up. To Panya only, which can understand its nature as no one. For example, now, hardness is now appearing. As usual, it cannot be changed at all. But what about the understanding develops on it when it's there? See, it's only the matter of developing understanding little by little. And it's so very, very difficult because not in anyone's control at all. No one can control it, only by conditions. That's why Panya experiences more and more anatthaness of whatever is now appearing. Otherwise, it's only understand the word, the meaning, but not the truth, not the reality, not its nature. Like metta, hearing about metta, no understanding about the truth of metta. And take metta for I, and there's the idea of wanting to have it more, what for whom and what for, what its nature is not there. It cannot belong to anyone. It's gone. It's the world of sunyata. What appears is not there. In truth, in split seconds. So it's just only hearing the word of the truth and understand that the truth is actually as it is taught by the enlightened one, the one who had experience directly, shows the way to have such understanding of what is now appearing as it is. So, what about Karuna, Mudita, and Hiri, and Ottappa, and the other? Wouldn't one like to have more, as would like to have more metta?
So we should think also why we want it, because there's idea of self that want to be better person, me want to have more kusla.
No understanding of no self, no one, what is meant by that which now appears and disappears. Before appearing, it does not appear. It cannot appear from nothing and then to be something and then nothing again. And this is the truth of everything appearing.
Jyotika, were you trying to make a further comment a little while ago?
Yes, but at the moment it's so much. Does it make any sense to give attention to the Brahma Viharas as such? I feel that it is only to understand the truth is the main thing. right now. And then everything will follow. I make it. Then you will understand other things like metta. But I see, has it changed a lot in myself about metta, knowing about karuna, about compassion, because I have been in contact with the text, with the teacher, with thinking about it, with trying. I think the most important thing is to make the connection between no self and this idea of doing something, of learning something. I'm sorry.
So when we talk about understanding the truth, it means the truth of any reality, no matter it's seeing or hearing or metta or anger, whatever reality it is, whatever a Dhamma it is, it arises and falls away, and it's not self. So it's not I who can make anything arise by wishing or willing, because whatever arises is conditioned. And this is true of metta or karuna as well. So however much the self would like to have more metta, no metta if there are no conditions for it. And the condition for the development of metta is understanding. If there's no understanding of the nature of metta in daily life, when looking at the insects, when surrounded by other people in the street, or like now, then the characteristic won't be known. So the reason we talk about the characteristic of metta is because otherwise the clinging to oneself, trying to have metta, will be taken for being metta, but actually it's just clinging to having metta. So the quality of metta has to be the pure, wholesome cetasika with kindness to others, not to oneself. So understanding more about different realities is what is meant by understanding the truth. So it's good to talk about these different realities. And because you're familiar with the names, when you hear about it, it's a little bit familiar, but because there's always been for so long the idea of following a practice or doing something or trying to have it, it seems so unfamiliar to listen to the teaching about metta as developing naturally when there are conditions, not trying to have it for oneself.
Yes, it's a big gap, a big...
Yes.
And Jyotika, I think there's a difference between, to answer your question, taking an interest in the Brahmaviharas. Yes, certainly, that they are worth learning about, considering, coming to know what their characteristics are and what their near enemies are and what are the conditions for their development and so forth, and expecting that it is possible to, by choosing one or other of them, to develop them further. That's another issue altogether. So
that's very helpful for me.
So we definitely have an interest in them, but we also have an interest in other kinds of wholesomeness, and particularly, as you know, there are different levels of wholesomeness, kusala, and metta and the Brahmaviharas are one of those, but higher still is the development of insight, the understanding of present moment realities. And sometimes we lose sight of that because we think that it's important to be, in quotes, a better person, having more kusala, being kinder to other people, and so forth. And that is a more palpable kind of development than slowly coming to understand the true nature of present moment realities. which has no obvious manifestation in one's life. And so perhaps we incline to grasp at the kind of kusala that we think can be more discernibly, be more apparent when it's more developed, rather than thinking about understanding, which, as we know, if understanding is developed, then all kinds of kusala become more purified.
And Jyotika, in that sutta, you know, you were talking about in the Karaniya Nimitta Sutta there, it starts off with, as you know, Karaniya Matakusalena Young and so on. It says Karaniya Matakusalena Young Tan. So I mean, this is what should be done by somebody with skill in the good. Now, the difficulty partly these days, or largely, is that to recognize skill in the good, that's not an easy thing. And I guess this is what we hear a lot from Tanajan, is to begin to understand word by word. We could go through the Metta Sutta there, and there's a very good commentary written. Even if you do that, there still may not be an understanding of what that sutta is all about. You know, the bhikkhus who were harassed by the deities, the three deities, and there was a lot of anger and annoyance with their behavior, and the Buddha recommended them, and he said to them that very famous, starts with that very famous verse, Karaniya Matakusalena Yangtan Samtam Padam, and so on. This is what should be done by one with skill in the good who seeks to attain the path of peace. Now, they're all fine words, and of course, coming from the Samma Sambuddha, they must be, but to understand them, that's not an easy thing. And also it says the word sakko ujuja, so ujuja. So it means sakko means you have to be able, and here is referring to three-rooted consciousness. So it's quite a complex sutta in many ways, and it's like you alluded to those 14 qualities, and they're really wonderful and good to know about, and it's good to learn to understand them, how they are and how they can manifest in our life with understanding. But I think one of the key words at the beginning, just said there, was that this is what should be done by one with skill in the good. There has to be that skill, kusalena, which means with skill in the good. So it is a slow process. And I think what Jonathan correctly alluded to there was that we often want to be better and do better, understandably, because there's a lot to learn and there's a lot of improvement to be made. But if we go about it in the wrong way, it can be very unhelpful.
And we must remember that whenever understand Dhamma is that they are just Dhamma, all are anatta, no selection, no expectation, uncontrollable. So when Buddha say that to do, like Samma Sambuddha said, do that, it's just conventionally speaking. It's just referring to Dhamma that arise by anatta, no choice, no selection, uncontrollable. It's just referring no one that can do something like that. It's to understand. And when Pandya understands, so it's the one which detach the clinging of self and can do. And so
I think a major misunderstanding of this metta thing comes from the fact how it is translated. I think first by Nanamoli with loving kindness. And it's, preached a lot in the West by the Dalai Lama, who is seen as a kind of person who is full of loving kindness. This thing is that love, if you understand it as just what it means in originally in Sanskrit or in Pali, just friendliness, it sort of comes down from the high thing that we have to develop, loving kindness, because people then think it's something because most Westerners, especially meditators, they think of themselves in a very negative way, which is actually something that meditation teachers in Asia are totally shocked about, when they hear that people hate themselves, or they have self-hatred. That's known. The Dalai Lama was once met by all the Western meditation teachers, all these famous people, and they were talking about that, and the Dalai Lama was totally shocked that that's possible, to have self-hatred. And so this loving kindness became sort of a hype that one can develop something and so on. So anyway, when I heard about metta just being friendliness, because we are friendly. When I'm going shopping, we are friendly to people, or I'm friendly to the cashier or so. So it's that kind of friendliness is a natural thing and not something to be developed. That's what
yes, and even more so, it doesn't have to manifest as a as an act of friend. I mean, it's a mental state. So there can be the mental state of friendliness without it actually overtly being shown. And we don't have to think that we have to be friendly in the bodily action sense, but it is taking others, wishing for the welfare of others rather than seeing them as an enemy, for example. And so, of course, it does affect the way one interacts with other people, but it doesn't have to particularly be an overt and discernible thing. But I do take your point about the way it's translated, and I was going to mention something that Sundara's comments reminded me of, and that is when we see something translated as should be done, as I understand it, it's not actually that in the original Pali. It's something more like in the sense of what needs to be done. So this is what needs to be done if one is to, such and such. And even so, it needs to be done doesn't mean a practice. It means what needs to happen in order for something to come about.
But by anatta, no selection and all that.
No selection, no actual, not a question of sitting down and running through the words of the sutta, for example, and upright and so forth. Yes, Jyotika.
Oh, it's okay.
We can't hear you, Jyotika. I can see you speaking, but we can't hear you.
No, I reacted on John that it is like a condition. If you speak about needs to be done, what is like?
Sorry, Jyotika, we still can't hear you.
That's a condition.
I can hear you okay.
Like it.
Yeah, Jonathan, it's a good point that you made there. Currently, it's called optative, so it's like it's kind of an option, or as you said, it can sometimes translate it should be, sometimes it's translated as could be, sometimes it's translated as needs to be, or whatever. But again, it's always the understanding of that word karaniya. So it can be translated in all sorts of ways. But even if you translate it the right way, invariably people misunderstand it. But it does say karaniya matta kusalena. This is what needs to be done by one with skill in the good, and with skill in the good. So if you hit that with kusala there, kusalena. So if there's not the understanding of kusala, there is going to be potentially some confusion and some going wrong in some particular way.
I do not see who is speaking. Someone is speaking.
That's Sundara speaking.
I'm sorry. Sorry, Jyotika. It's me, Sundara. So yeah, I'm sort of familiar with that sutta. When I lived in Sri Lanka, especially. And it's a very wonderful tree by Nanamoli, as our friend Wilhelm alluded to, and he does a word-by-word translation of it, and I think it is very helpful. But again, even if you understand Pali really well, and you can still misunderstand it. That's the difficulty often with the Dhamma. It's not really necessarily the understanding of Pali. That can help, but if there's not the right understanding about some fundamental things in the Dhamma, like just what is kusala and how it's developed, then there can be difficulties. You know, there were people, no doubt, in the Buddha's time who understood this very clearly and very. They knew perfectly well what the Buddha was speaking about when he said karaniya. They would have understood that word very, very well, what it meant, and obviously when it was succeeded by what needs to be done should be done with kusala. And that's not what is understood these days.
But like Ajahn said, that it's important is understanding, not that we lost in the story and all that. And it's not about whether stuck with the word, but understanding, and that's more useful. Otherwise, it's still self and wanting and like.
And at the end of the sutta, it points to this exactly, to the insight into the realities. So metta is just another dharma, another conditioned reality. So at this moment, no matter there's metta, or no matter there is attachment, or no matter seeing, they're all realities. So the development of understanding has to be the non-selection of what appears. Otherwise, the attachment is there for sure.
Yeah.
Because in terms of developing understanding, it doesn't matter at this moment whether it's metta that appears, or attachment, or seeing, or hearing. Whatever it is insignificant and falls away instantly.
I want to bring up one point. I've heard from Thai video which Ajahn Dhamma that Ajahn explained, that the more we know, the more harder it gets. So the more Panya develop, the more profound and the subtleness the Dhamma is. Because if like we talk in a worldly sense, that one may have knowledge and things become easier later, but Dhamma is not like that. The deeper we know, the more subtle it is. So, and what I heard is that like out of 4 areas, such as 2 are because one are profound because it's subtle, and the other 2 that they are subtle because it's profound. I want to get understanding in this topic.
What needs to be done to understand?
Listen Dhamma, and by condition, by anatta, no selection.
See, as long as the truth does not appear as it is to be known, what needs to be done is so common, right?
Listen.
Without listening, considering, can there be any understanding? So it's just ordinary. We can understand that. Not in terms of I, but the conditions to condition the understanding to arise. Without hearing, considering, can there be the understanding of the word which represents the reality? For example, the nama, that which experiences. What needs to be done? Just turn away from it, no considering at all? Or what is that? It's so true, that which can experience, otherwise nothing can arise at all, beginning from the nature of that which is not self or anyone at all, and who can stop the arising of the conditioned realities. That is paticca. See, ignorance is there from long time ago, condition what and so on, right now. So what needs to be done? To listen. It does mean that it's a rule, or one should, or one have to, but the reasoning, the condition is there. So we can understand what's meant from each word of the teaching. It does mean that one needs to know one, but what needs to be done? See, no one at all. To understand the truth as no self is the beginning to understand the meaning of each word of the Buddha. So your question is about the first two Paticca and the last two, right?
I think I was mentioning Arya Satya, if I'm not wrong.
Yes.
For Arya Satya, for Noble Truth.
The first two Noble Truth is what?
Yeah. They are profound. That's why it's subtle. And the other two, they are subtle, and that's why it's profound. I want to get the understanding what does this mean.
Okay. Are all four Arya Satyas profound?
Yes.
But different, because even is there, see is now, hearing is now, but the profoundness or the subtlety of its nature is not known, even it's there. That is the meaning of the first two. Even it's there. So hard, so difficult to penetrate the truth of it, which arises in false way. This is for the first two Arya Satya, and the two second, the Nibbana and the path, the Magga. See, is it there now? If there's no understanding at all, it's not there. Not like seeing and hearing is there all the time, but it's so subtle that no one can penetrate its truth. Even the truth is there, cannot be changed at all. Just arise by conditioned, performing the function of only one function and fall away, never to arise again. It's so profound, so subtle that no one can directly experience the truth. It needs what needs to be done. Develop panya. Not no one develops, but the developing from hearing and considering, that is the development of panya, until it can understand better and deeper. And there is a moment of direct awareness with direct understanding of only one reality at a time in the beginning, until that appears well, better and better into the moment of vipassana jhana. But when there is no understanding at all, no path, no nibbana appearing, no understanding of the nature of nibbana, right?
Yeah.
So the point is understanding that actually how much avijja is there from eons and eons ago until the moment, the first moment of life, and then until now, and go on when there's no development of right understanding of the truth, the letting go. Because it takes quite a long time to understand even that now. It's conditioned to be such thinking, hearing, feeling, remembering, and so on. That is the letting go of the idea of self, or clinging to this or that, to this and that, all by conditions. And right understanding is just the light that can understand what is right and what is wrong, what is wholesome and what is wholesome. And from having such understanding arise, there can be the moment of more wholesome realities, no matter it is metta or karuna by in any situation, mudita and ubeka, and all sorts of different situations be understood.
And I think Haji, the more understanding develops, the more attachment, the more wrong view, the more ignorance is revealed. And this is why the more understanding develops, the more subtle the path is, the more apparent it is that, like Jyotika was saying, oh, not as simple as one thought, not a matter of just practicing and doing something. So it is very, very subtle, the meaning of understanding dharmas as anatta, and more kilesa to be known as anatta.
Yes, I agree, because the more Panya knows, the more Panya sees how much ignorance and other kilesa is there. So so the more subtle the Panya see the subtleness of Dhamma.
The more it sees what was not seen, what was not known before.
I have a question. Unfortunately, not regarding to this, but to the subtlety of what Ajahn explained about last time when I came up with this complicated question with the Aramanas. Ajahn, you were saying that Sampatijana, the major cetasika of the Sampatijana is vitaka, to touch the object. Can you explain what, first of all, what the different prominent cetasikas are in the sense law process?
Only 10 citta that have vitaka arising with it. That's why we begin to understand the difference between the moment of the actual seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching, and all other cittas. They are quite different. That's why it's only just a moment of arising, because karma conditioned it just to arise, only to see. That's why it cannot do other function at all. It needs, or the condition for its rising is 7 cetasikas. See, only 7, not less than 7, not more than 7. See, this is the nature of all citta. There must be these 7 which arise with all citta. So what is the citta which is, see, is it so important? Or it's just only conditioned to arise just to see, because it's conditioned by karma. So it's the vipaka to see only that object at that very time, at a certain object, see, because of the karma. So it doesn't need any other cetasika to arise with it, because it's the function, the paccaya of karma, which can condition the vipaka, which arise to see. So very short, so very little, and then gone. But what going on after that? More than just seeing, taking it as something, and that which has to arise with the next citta is vitaka, because the function of sampatichana is not seeing, but it is receiving. What does it mean? It is not the actual moment of seeing, which is so very short. No one can think about how short it is, because unexpectedly, beyond expected. See how short, how little a moment is to see, arise to see, and then gone. And the next citta, conditioned by that citta which sees, receiving the same, because the rupa is still there, but it needs vitaka, because it cannot see, but it can experience the same object as seeing. So vitaka is there with other Cetasika from moment to moment, on and on and on, making up the world and the things. That's why we learn to understand the difference between each moment of citta. But we cannot have such understanding without the teachings of the Buddha. But from his teachings, one begin to study. That's why no matter what word is heard, there should be the understanding. What is the true, the real meaning of that word? Not just by translation, the grammar or the meaning, but the truth of it. Because after listening, hearing that word, there should be the considering about what is there. For example, talking about seeing. There is seeing right now. And that is a teaching about seeing. And not just that, also what Buddha said about this. Because no one can have such great understanding as him. That's why it has to consult or study, examine, investigate what Buddha said about this. What is the truth of the word, his word, with such and such meaning? And this is the way to study Dhamma. So we learn to understand that Vitakka does not arise with the seeing consciousness, but after the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, the other citta has Vitakka with it. Except when it's jhana at broad degree or stage of jhana later on, which is not ordinary life in karma world. Is it, can we know?
I think the point, Wilhelm, too, was not just that Vitakka was the most important, but people think of Vitakka as just arising in the mind or with moments of thinking. And the point was we were discussing the rupa, the visible object, as the aramana of all the cittas in the sense door process. So apart from at the moments of seeing and hearing and so on, all the other cittas in that process have vitakka and vichara arising with them. So vitakka leads the citta to the object at every moment, except for those moments of seeing and hearing and so on. Passa is also important. Many cetasikas are important. Ekagata is important. But the point is that at moments of seeing and hearing, there is passa and there's ekagata, but no vitakka until sampatichana arises. Even the citta before seeing has to have vitakka to lead it to the object. So it shows it's, again, the subtlety that it's different from the conventional idea of thinking.
Okay. I was actually quite surprised to hear, even though I've heard it before, but I didn't really notice it in that actually only one citta sees. Why is it even called the seeing process if you know, basically only one sees? Everything else is blind, so to speak, but has, you know, yeah, it's really strange.
The idle process, the process in which seeing arises, but these other cittas have to experience the visible object too, which is impinged on the idle, but they each have their own particular function. And as you say, only seeing itself can see. Sampatichana cannot see, Santirana cannot see, but they have their own function to perform. The kusala or akusala cittas that follow and experience that visible object cannot see it, but they experience it with attachment or ignorance or whatever.
And that's the way Dhamma is. And it's not that after seeing there's no sampatichana and all that. That's how Dhamma is. Seeing, and there has to be a thinking of what is seen. That's the way Dhamma, nobody can change.
Yeah.
And it helps to consider this, to consider that there are just these other cittas that arise and form their functions but don't see, but must have vitakka to experience the object. it helps to just understand how anatta all these dhammas are, each one conditioned and has to be the way it is, as Haji said, because the conditions to be like that. So how can there be anyone who can do anything? How can it be changed through following a practice or anything? Because each one will follow by its conditions with its particular cetasikas, experience that object and fall away instantly.
Another thing that surprised me when I was, thinking about it, is that the king is actually the javanas. It's not, in a naive way, I would expect the seeing. I mean, the Jaku Vijnana, or the Vijnana, to being the king, because that's the actual, for the being, the actual thing that happens. Or that seems to be important, but it's the javanas that partake. So, but I don't really understand that partaking also, that is,
Yes, the seeing, the sampaticca, the santirana, they're just result of karma that's already been done long ago and just brings its results by way of that karma pacaya, but the kusala or akusala is the cause. It leads to the accumulation of more kusala or akusala. But like now, as we were discussing with metta, no one can choose or select whether there is lobha or metta now. It depends on the accumulation and the tendency. But it is the kusala and akusala that accumulate and lead to more karma, which in turn will bring results in future.
And it is those jittas, the kusala and the kusala ones, that arise in the javana or have the function of javana, that have an idea of what has been seen and heard. If there were not those jittas, then there would not be an idea of people and things in the world. There wouldn't be the understanding of the words that were being spoken and that sort of thing, because it's only by those jittas that run through the sense door objects and associate them with other sense door objects that have been experienced before and after, and that make up the picture, if you like, of the world as we know it.
In the following mind door processes.
Okay. Yeah. Very good.
I mean, it's hard, yes, to understand. We try to figure it out, but we have just listen, and when Panya, there's condition for Panya to arise naturally.
What is can you tell me what Tadalambara is doing? I mean, I know, registering is the translation, but I don't know. Is it just like fixing or finishing this whole process, or the seeing process, or whatever process it is? Or?
There are just a couple more vipaka citas if the visible object hasn't yet fallen away. So depending on when the visible object impinged on the eye sense, we know the visible object lasts as long as 17 citas. So if the visible object hasn't yet fallen away, there are 2 more vipaka citas at the end of the process. And in the following mind or process, it will be the same. That's all.
Okay. And that also has only the 7 cetasikas, or
they must have vitaka also, vitaka, vichara.
Because it's not performed actual seeing, or as like Chaku Vijnana or Sota, that actual hearing, that doesn't require vitaka. All other require vitaka.
Yeah.
Viriya.
Viriya.
is there perhaps a way to talk a little bit about more, you know, the vipaka thing? Because it's kind of paradox that that seeing is a vipaka. I mean the Chakra Vijnana.
So what is the condition for seeing now? What are the conditions for seeing to arise?
The condition, the visible object, and obviously the karma, since it's a vipaka. So
right. So the visible object has to have impinged on the eye sense. So eye sense has to be there, and it depends on past karma whether there is seeing at this moment to experience that visible object or not, and depends on the karma whether the seeing will see a desirable or undesirable object at this moment. And it also depends on the other cetasikas like pasa that arise with it, that experience the object. So if there was no past karma, there would be no seeing at this moment. So it's a result of karma.
Can you just say it again? Sorry, I didn't really pay attention.
So as you said, the visible object has to have impinged on the eye sense. So there must be visible object and there must be eye sense. And the seeing itself is the result of past karma. So it depends on the past karma whether seeing arises at that moment, because there are countless visible objects arising and falling away all the time. But it has to be the visible object that's impinged on eye sense. And then it depends on karma whether that visible object is seen at this moment and what visible object is seen. So it's the result of karma.
Because visible object can be pleasant or unpleasant, like sound and the other sense door objects, hardness or softness through the body door and so forth. And so it depends on past karma whether the object experienced is pleasant or unpleasant.
Okay.
And the karma doesn't just condition the seeing, but also the following vipaka citas conditioned by that same karma, sampaticana and santirana.
Okay. Well, thank you.
My question, one thing I wanted to ask, I was talking with my father and all that. When we say that when Panya develops, right, it sees the profoundness of the Dhamma, and it sees the subtleness. So the more Panya develops, the more subtle, the more profound it gets. And I hear that out of all sankhara, Panya is the hardest to arise. So does that mean that the harder it gets, the harder it also to arise? Mean it's not easily arise like other like akusala, which daily is there all the time and all that.
I think the short answer to that is that it accumulates and develops. So it gets stronger, not weaker. Unlike, for example, you may be thinking of breath as an object, and it's said that the more that that contemplation is developed as an object of samatha, the more subtle it becomes. But anyway, Panya is not like that. Panya accumulates and gets stronger.
And just one point, when we mention about becoming more profound or more subtle, actually the teachings are as they are, the dhammas are as they are. So it's not like the dhammas become more profound or subtle. It's just that as understanding develops, more and more is revealed about the subtlety of the teaching, about the nature of dhammas as anatta. So the truth is the truth, no matter it's understood or not. It's just that it's only revealed as understanding develops.
But like out of all sankhara, panya is hardest to arise. But even like for Arahata or like Buddha and all that, they already have strong tendency of panya. So their daily life panya would not as like arise like what we akusala arise, right? So you get my question? Do you?
Yes, but who would like to measure which is most difficult and which is speculate on? Because when understanding understands what appears now like seeing or hardness, there's no thought about which is most difficult. Isn't that just for oneself again? Trying to measure and calculate. Of course, everyone knows the understanding of dharmas as anatta is very difficult. The path is very, very difficult. But I think just let panya develop by understanding realities instead of speculating so much about when will it be less difficult or when will it be more subtle or more, because it just develops and reveals more and more gradually, I think.
And I think you'll remember that wholesome qualities, as they develop, they become stronger and stronger, and they become a faculty and then a power and so on. So panya is the same for panya. In its highly developed form, it's a power. But what that means for the daily life of the enlightened, the arahat, I have no idea.
Is karma the same as condition? Vipaka karma.
Karma is one condition. So for seeing now to arise, karma is one condition.
Karma is
Vipaka is the result of karma.
Yeah.
And vipaka can be another condition.
Another condition, okay.
Yes. For example, the cetasikas that arise with it arise by vipaka, paccaya. So many different conditions for attachment to arise now. Different conditions. The attachment arises because of the accumulation of attachment. The metta now arises because of the accumulation of metta. So this is a different condition.
And every moment of consciousness that arises now is conditioned, and itself will be a condition for other moments of consciousness that follow. So the conditioning relationships are multiple and intricate, but every reality in our life is conditioned, and itself is a condition for some other reality.
Yeah.
I have another question. When one experiences, let's say, experience lobha, is that necessarily just thinking, or is there, if I'm, let's take the most, even the Buddha says that the most intense, I think, lobha arises for a man is seeing a beautiful woman. Now, if I pass a beautiful woman, or as a matter of even any woman at some point, there is this moment of extreme lobha arising. Is that can that be called? I don't know if there is a nimitta of lobha, accumulation. I mean, a series of Chitta's that yeah. Can you talk about that, what I'm asking?
It's real, right? And it's a mental factor that arises with the consciousness. So attachment is one, and aversion, dosa, is another, and ignorance is another, and right or wrong view is another. Some mental factors are wholesome, some are unwholesome, but they arise together with citta, and they are accumulated. So they are accumulated tendencies that are carried forward. And when there's condition for them to arise, they do so. I don't know if that answers your question.
Well, what I mean is the observation of that lobha arising at the moment when it happens. What is that? Is that just thinking about it, or
Yes.
or?
Well, it depends, but it's a kind of thinking, whether it's just something that one notices without intending to, that's thinking. And if one notices it because one is trying to pay attention to the mental factors that are arising, then it's also thinking. And the only time it's not thinking is if there is awareness or understanding of it.
Okay, and how would that awareness arise? I mean, how would it manifest?
Understanding and awareness see the reality as it truly is in some respect. So whether it can be weak or strong, of course, understanding and awareness. So one can't say exactly how it would manifest, but understanding knows something about the true nature of a reality that is presently arising.
And it must be the nimitta of lobha, because the lobha itself arose with akusala citta and fallen away. And it's not just one lobha. So it's the sign of lobha that appears and is the object of understanding.
Okay.
And when we talk about the true nature of realities, every reality has a particular characteristic. For example, the characteristic of lobha is grasping or attachment. And the characteristic of aversion is pushing away. So awareness and understanding can be aware, can understand, or can see that characteristic if it arises by conditions. And seeing is another conditioned reality that has a characteristic, the characteristic of experiencing the visible object. So seeing can also be object of awareness. So if awareness and understanding do arise, it cannot be predicted what object they will take, because they arise by conditions, not by virtue of us wanting to have awareness of something.
Okay, thank you.
And only panya itself can know at this moment when lobha appears, whether it's just thinking about the story of lobha, where it's thinking about it, or whether it is the actual nature of lobha that appears as a Dhamma, not self, and gone.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's trying to find out whether it's awareness or thinking, then the lobha is there again to be known.
Okay, yeah.
Perhaps Ajahn would like to add more to these points.
About what again?
About global. Oh,
You go on, Wilhelm.
Loba arising in daily life, when one experiences and grasps a beautiful sight or something.
Can it be now?
Can be.
Yes, any moment can be understood. For example, is there any attachment to anything now?
Oh, definitely.
See, it's there, but it does not appear at all. Only the object is there, but the attachment is there, unknown, because it's gone so very quickly. That's why when it's not enough or no condition for its appearing, it's only there. No one knows that it's there. There is only its function as just like it so much, so very happy at that moment when it's there. See, but no understanding of the nature of that. That is kind of attachment. That's why attachment arises so very quickly because of the accumulation from life to life, from moment to moment. But the understanding begin to understand that it's there. Even it doesn't know, like Vitakka is there at moment when it's not seeing, hearing, smelling. But who knows the characteristic of Vitakka? As Vitakka cannot be known because it's not the object, direct object of understanding yet. So Lopa is there, unknown all the time. But even right now, we think about the word Nama and Rupa. See, we just at the moment of hearing, there is no doubt about it. But the other moment, no thought about it at all. So what is the firm sanya, which can condition direct understanding of that which has been heard quite a long time and has no doubt about that, but no conditions enough to condition moment of just think, even thinking about it, because thinking needs the sanya, cetasika, to arise and think and remember that which is the object of thinking. So all are conditioned. That's why everything will appear as anatta, no matter what. But when it's panya, it's clearer because no choice to have such understanding of that object at any time or how much, depending on conditions, because there is hardness now, and everyone knows it's a reality arising, and it's there as object at moment of touching, and no more. But even no more is not there at all in one's life or in one's thought. That's why it can condition moment of thinking about that which is heard to condition moment of direct understanding, little by little, until it's there as object. Like visible object now, it's there as object, but not as visible object, but it appears as something. See, the same as other realities. It's there, but no understanding. While one laughing is laughing, there is attachment, enjoy so much, but the lopa is there, unknown. It's like visible object now, there, unknown. Only that which appears as things, people, dolls, whatever is there, as it is seen. But actually, what is seen cannot be anything at all. So when lopa is there as the object, it has to be only lopa, that characteristic only, which appears as it's different from other realities. No word about it, but the characteristic of such level of lopa is there to be known. That's why no expectation for any reality to be object, because they are all so many things arising and falling away. No choice to only this or only that, or it has to be this or that at all. All gone until it's time for panya to condition right or direct awareness to be aware of that particular object that panya understand it as one has heard before, little by little. For example, hardness is now appearing. See, before there can be the clear and more understanding, it's not there anymore when it is not experienced. Even that is not in one's mind at all, not enough. That's why there should be the understanding of the word, of the teaching, of the truth, until it's so firm, so that at moment when it's there, it can let go the idea of something, like when lopa is there, or dosa is there, whatever is there, depending on conditions, no expectation, to let go the idea of something, or I would like, or when and how it will appear. See? So everything is conditioned to arise, but what is the object? Only one at a time. Object of thinking, not forgetting. Some moment in life, in a day, can be moment of thinking about that, which now is appearing, like seeing right now. See, no matter how much one talks about it, but not conditioned, no condition enough to understanding it, even at the beginning. It cannot be anything. Only a moment of seeing. How can it be something? See? And this is so true that it takes quite a long time to let go of ignorance from life to life, accumulated so very, very strong, not to understand what is now appearing. But Panya begins to understand, take it with patience, that it cannot be more than just that, but it can be when there is more conditions for its arising, to let go wrong understanding, like holding the knife's handle. See, at the moment when it's touched, it does not appear as it's worn away at all, but later and later and later until it's there. So Panya develops all moment of understanding. When understanding is there, it's not lost. But the other moment hide the truth of what has learned before, because the strong accumulation of ignorance and attachment is there. That's why to understand the truth, and it develops from moment to moment, that is the true way, the truth of the development of attaining the truth of reality right now as it is. The way to let go is only this way. Before there can be any moment, any time, it's conditioned just to stretch one's hand for this and that. See, even getting up from the bed, it's conditioned. No one there at all. Until it's so natural in daily life, because it's gone, and then other reality is known one by one, a little more, from moment to moment. So only Panya can know how much understanding of that which is now we're talking about, as it is, as no one and nothing.
When you say there is no one and nothing, do you actually mean there is really nothing there? I mean, an objective world doesn't exist, or it's just an illusion or a thinking?
What about hearing a moment ago? Is it still there now?
No, that's gone, yeah.
Can it be found anywhere?
No.
And that is sunyata, anatta. No one and nothing, because it's not there anymore. So how can it be anything? Not at all. None of it, as it has gone. And this is so true. What was yesterday, and what is today, and what about a minute ago, and what will be tomorrow, not the same moment as now.
Okay.
Just to have firm confidence of the truth. The truth has to be the truth. No one can change the way Dhamma is. And that is enlightened by the Buddha, the enlightened one. Enlighten the truth of whatever is now appearing. Otherwise, they cannot be letting go of the idea of something or I at all.
Okay.
So the visible object is experienced by those idle cheetahs we mentioned, but it's not a thing or a person. It's just that which is seen for those, by that one cheetah of seeing, and experienced by those other cheetahs, and then it falls away instantly, never to return, nothing at all. So it was just that which was seen, the visible object, the color for a moment, and then completely gone. Never anything, never anything.
That's quite clear regarding the sense, these processes, the sense door and the mind door process. But how about the world? The Mahabhutas, I mean, the Mahabhutas exist. And
yes. What we are talking about and what the Buddha spoke about is what can be directly known for oneself. And so that obviously is just what is appearing to consciousness at the present moment. As was said in one simile, the world is just one moment of consciousness. It's like a chariot wheel that touches the ground at a single point. And it's only the present moment that can be directly known, and it's only what is appearing at one of the 5 sense doors or the mind door that can be directly known. So if one asks about the world out there, that has to be something that is assumed, rightly or wrongly. It doesn't really matter, but it can't be directly known.
okay.
Because truly the world, before we hear Dhamma, it may seem, oh, there's the world, there's building, there's people, there's so many things and all that. But actually world is just a momentary life, just momentary consciousness, and continuously another. But actually world is just one moment.
Yeah.
Seeing is the world now. That which is seen, the visible object, is the world that is experienced. Thinking is a world, but the house and the river is just that which is imagined. So the world is just the reality at this very moment.
And we can know about things in the world, like computer or table. We can know a lot about them, but they cannot be directly known as such. There's no essence to be directly experienced, and there's no kind of consciousness that can directly experience that kind of what consciousness can see the visible aspect or touch the tangible aspect of something, but only by that means. It's by means of those sense door impressions and the jitters of the javana process that we spoke about earlier, that there comes to be the idea of things in the world and a world out there. But in terms of what can be directly known, it is just the realities that we've been discussing.
Okay, thank you.
For example, when you're thinking about the world out there, at that moment, the world is the thinking.
Yeah.
Like when seeing, there's just the world is only seeing, the world of seeing, there's no thinking with the world of seeing, just a moment of seeing, and thinking after that is the world of thinking. That's actually the world is.
We think we can travel around the world and read in the paper about the world, but actually the world is just here and now at this moment, and then gone, nothing.
And another world.
So basically, what is being said is that the thing in itself, as Kant stated also, there's nothing that can be said about the thing in itself. So we are actually idealists. Only what in philosophical terminology, or even very strict ones in the Berkeleyan sense, the English philosopher Berkeley said only what is experienced can be talked about as reality.
I mean that,
so,
William, that is idealism, because that's speculation. What we're talking about is about realities that do actually appear and have characteristics and manifest.
That's clear, that's clear. It's just another way of speaking about it. No, but I mean, I don't want to diminish this teaching.
No, because we're not saying that there shouldn't be thinking about the world out there, but we're saying what in terms of what can be directly known as to how it truly is. It is what is appearing at the present moment.
Mm-hmm. But there is no denial of an external reality as such.
Well, it depends on one's figure of speech. I mean, reality, how do you define reality?
Well, in the sense that there are the different world systems. The Buddha speaks about the 10,000 worlds out there, or where his voice could be heard, and so on. So, I mean, he didn't really, I mean, if that's a correct rendering now that I give, that there isn't really a denial of something out there.
Not a denial, but not relevant to the development of the understanding leading to enlightenment. Yeah.
Yeah, that's clear.
Well, there are those two realities. You've got the, Sammuti Satya and the Paramatta Satya, the conventional reality and the ultimate reality. And what we talk about here mostly, as you know about, is the Paramatta Satya, the ultimate truths. As you said, those 10,000 world systems, they exist conventionally speaking. But whether you're here or there, there are only Dhammas arising and falling away. So I'm sure you realize.
Yes.
We can carry on with this topic next week, perhaps, Wilhelm.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ajahn.
Thank you, Ajahn.
ขอบคุณมากครับ สวัสดีครับ อาจารย์
สวัสดี